Hey everybody, welcome to the Cripescast. I'm your host, Charlie Behrens. This is the podcast where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest, and we are sponsored by Jolly Good Soda, the best gosh darn soda around. And I'm not just saying that because they're a sponsor. I'm saying it because I've been putting that stuff in Old Fashioned since I was 6 years old. And yes, I was making them at 6 years old. I was not drinking them then. That came at 8. So anyway, listen, this week we've got a very cool episode. I'm talking with Samantha Longshore from Milwaukee Recycles, and we are talking all about an issue I'm very passionate about. It's recycling and more broadly, just the environment. I feel like, we got one planet, and we've been doing a pretty good job of screwing the pooch with it. And what I'm most interested in with the environment is how can everybody, there's so much that goes on with lobbying and politics, and there's so many big business interests historically that have gone into really a lot of our environmental degradation. And as just an average Joe who's not, bribing politicians, it's tough to feel like you can do something, but recycling is something everybody can do. However, there are many articles out there, and there are many people talking about the effectiveness of recycling and how effective is it? Does it take, more greenhouse gases to recycle, for instance, than the benefit is worth? And also, what stuff can actually be recycled? Like, how many times have you flipped open a bottle of soda, of course, but you're like, the bottle cap, can that thing be recycled? Or what about the tops to your water bottles? Or what about styrofoam? You always see some people try and recycle styrofoam. You're like, that can't be recycled. Or can it? I don't know. Wrapping paper, little envelopes, shredded paper, all these things that, a lot of us are trying to do the right thing and recycling. But here's the kicker. If you recycle or try to recycle the wrong stuff, you can often do more damage than you are doing good by putting the stuff you're supposed to recycle in there, because it gunks up the system. But that's a bigger question. What is the system and how does it work? Anyway, we're answering all these questions in this podcast. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. I get a little, I don't know. I like getting in the weeds on this issue because I think it's very practical, and I think there's so much confusion around it. So even understanding like those little recycling symbols on the back of your plastic container, what does that actually mean? Just because you see that recycling symbol, does that mean it's recyclable? And which numbers do we get to put in the standard recycling places? And again, we're going to dive into all this. The short answer is those things don't necessarily mean it's recyclable. They may just be dictating what kind of plastic it is or what kind of resin. Anyway, Samantha knows this stuff better than me, so I'm going to let her talk in a moment, even though, geez Louise, Charlie, oh my gosh, 3 minutes you've been yip-yapping. Get to the deal here. I want to thank everybody who came out to the Eau Claire shows. We had a ton of fun. Even the game that we had on Sunday night, which, yes, it was during the Packers-Bears game. How could he schedule a gosh darn comedy show during the Packers-Bears game? I didn't. It was COVID's fault. We had to cancel the shows due to COVID last year, and then we actually rescheduled them a few different times. And then the last time we rescheduled them was before the Packers schedule came out. And unfortunately, the most important Packers game landed on that day. But, it was actually a lot of fun. Adam Gruel was there, who, we did the album together, for those of you who don't know, and we perform live together a lot. And then my buddy Andy Rafi was there. He was the opener. Andy is a Bears fan. So every time the Bears scored, Andy would interrupt my show, come out on stage and update the audience. And it was beautiful. The audience booed him. I was actually worried for his safety. I thought, especially in the first quarter. I mean, geez Louise, the audience was not happy with Andy. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And then Adam would come on every time the Packers scored. Everyone loved him because he made the right choices, right life choices. So there you have it. Anyway, Eau Claire, ton of fun. This week, we're going to Baltimore. The Packers are playing the Ravens in Baltimore. We got a show. I believe there are still a couple tickets left if you happen to be on the East Coast in that general area. I don't know how far Baltimore is from like DC, but when I lived in DC, I think I remember it. I think it's about an hour away. So if you're in DC, Baltimore, I don't know, New York, if you want to get on the train and waste an afternoon, come on down. See the show. It'll be a lot of fun. Oh, I see. We have about 20 tickets left to that show. So if you're interested, cheapers cripes, you better act real fast, real quick ones. Also, we're doing a thing on ManitowocMinute.com this week to help with the victims of the tornadoes in Tennessee and Kentucky. And if you buy a Watch Out for Deer koozie and bottle opener, and by the way, watch out for deer, folks. You know what that means. It says that's the best way to say I love you in the Midwest, because we lack the emotional capacity to say I love you. But we do very much so love everybody down south, and we know they're going through a lot right now with those tornadoes. We've all experienced them up here, and boy, they just had some bad ones down there. So if you do want to support, if you go to Cripescast.com, we have the merch linked up there, and it's the Watch Out for Deer, Keep Her Moving koozie bottle opener bundle. 100% of those proceeds is going to go to the victims of those tornadoes. Also, folks, don't forget to follow the Cripescast. That's at Cripescast, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We put videos up there and pictures and the whole deal. And thank you for rating the podcast and leaving a comment. Actually, this week's episode topic was initially inspired by a fan who sent me a message that said, I don't get it. I don't know what I can recycle. And I was like, yeah, geez Louise, honestly, I don't really know either. So your comments really help direct the direction. Direct the direction, Charlie. Real good English you're doing there. No, but they help give us direction on the topics and the guests, and we really appreciate that. So thank you all for listening, commenting, following. Appreciate you. Okie dokes. And with that, here is my conversation with Samantha Longshore of Milwaukee Recycles. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to do this.
Absolutely. Thanks for thinking of us, thinking about recycling.
Yeah. And why don't you just sort of start off and explain your role with recycling in Milwaukee, and we'll take it from there.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Samantha Longshore. I'm the Resource Recovery Program Manager for the City of Milwaukee. So really that's kind of a big, long title, meaning that I help with our programming, anything where we divert from landfill. So education side, operations side. And so one of the largest components of that is helping to oversee our residential recycling program.
Got it. Okay. And so the reason, I've got an environmental background, like when I was doing journalism more seriously, not that it's not serious right now, folks, but when I was doing environmental issues more seriously, there was a question that always came up, and that was about recycling. And I've even gotten some comments from listeners about this too, just randomly. In addition to that, I've found myself, even though I've considered myself somewhat educated on environmental issues, just straight up confused about what you can recycle. So I just wanted to start with that to give people the most practical information off the top. Like, for instance, the top of a beer bottle. Can you recycle that or no?
So you're talking kind of like the metal top on a glass bottle?
Yeah.
So that would be a no.
That's a no. Okay.
That's a no. And I guess this is the problem about recycling. It's like, well, not here, but if you did something else. So that's a really good example. Glass and metal, different materials. So they have to be separated.
Okay. So this is because isn't there the mixed use recycling bins in Milwaukee, right?
There is. And so here's but. So the cap comes off. The cap is so small that it doesn't make it through the system and it can't be captured. So, for example, at our drop-off centers, which DPW sanitation also manages, we have scrap metal boxes. And so if you have just metal pieces, and so if you have something really small, they could go there because it's source separated, it's in a container, it's going to make it. But we say anything in your recycling cart, it's got to be about the size of your fist. Otherwise, it's too small. It's not going to make it through the equipment and get it where we need to go.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How about pizza boxes? I feel like everybody asks about those.
Yeah. So pizza boxes are a yes, but so pizza boxes are okay, but we don't want it with any grease, any leftover crust. You should be eating that anyway. That's the best part. No cheese, that kind of thing. So what you'll find on pizza boxes is that typically it's perforated, so you can rip the top from the bottom anyway. So the bottom's usually where all that grease is. Rip it apart, throw the bottom in your garbage, and put the top in your recycling.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say I've never met a pizza box without grease. If you did, I don't
Yeah,
think you got a pizza. I don't know what you got. You got
agreed.
something a little too healthy for yourself. What about the tops of like a milk carton, for instance? If you screw it on, then it'll get through that little system. So should we keep those screwed on or not? The tops of bottles and milk cartons and all those.
Yeah, absolutely. So any of your plastic bottles, put that cap back on. And that's something that's kind of new. Before it was like caps off, and in the past few years, it's caps on. So any plastic bottles, but also your cartons. So if you drink like an almond milk or some kind of beverage, you can actually put that plastic cap back on that paper carton too. So it's kind
You
of like the
can.
one thing that doesn't follow the rule. Yeah,
And that paper carton is recyclable.
it is. Yep. In the city of
Okay.
Milwaukee. Yeah, any cartons that come out of your fridge, that come out of your pantry, those are okay. The only cartons that aren't are going to be your frozen materials, because they kind of have that waxy coating on the inside to kind of help against freezer burn. And so those can't. But out of the fridge, out of the pantry, recycle those.
Okay. It's already getting confusing though, isn't it? But so it is very confusing. I mean, we're getting some of these like more common ones out of the way. Are there any other common things that people don't know you can recycle that you can, or they try to recycle and you can't?
Yeah, there's actually a lot. And I kind of take it back to basics because I was in the same place. Like I was a sustainability consultant for 8 years prior to this job. And so I thought same thing too. Like, I get it. I know how to recycle. And I was a wish cycler. So it's like that person that goes like, I think this is okay. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna throw it in because that feels better to my heart. And then you find out that that's the worst thing to do. So we
Oh,
always
really?
say, before any, yeah, it's, and that's
So,
kind of why, when we had commingled recycling, everything went together. It was a lot of like, I think this works. I'm going to throw it in, but I don't really know for certain. And that's why there's a lot of contamination, not just we have some in our city. We're actually, doing pretty well. Recycling is like in our blood, right? In Wisconsin, it's been around since 1990. But that's where a lot of it comes from. It's trying to do good and wanting to recycle a lot and accidentally throwing the wrong things and making those assumptions. So like the biggest lesson that we teach is know before you throw, when in doubt, throw it out. So it's like, check the guide, go to MilwaukeeRecycles.com. And if you don't know, like if you can't find the answer, reach out to us, throw it in the garbage, because there's probably a reason that you're not sure. There's something goofy about it. And you're probably right.
okay, but what is the problem? Because you're putting all these mixed recycling deals in through your system. You're putting all the mixed recycling through your system. But what happens when like you put plastic bags in, which can't be recycled unless it's single source and you take them to the grocery store or something? But honestly, Here in the Midwest, most people just put their bags in their bags in their bags and keep them under the sink until they die. So, but what happens if we put something that can't be recycled in the mixed recycling? Does that just screw the pooch for the whole deal, or what happens?
There's a couple different issues that can happen. So the first one, if it gets into the system, so like the plastic bags or the plastic film, we have equipment. And what is kind of interesting, and I encourage people to go, try to get a tour of the MRF and see how it works. And MRF is material recycling facility. Or material recovery facility. It's a lot of equipment that does the sorting. And so the great innovation that helped separate containers from your paper and your cardboard are these spinning rods with discs. And all the paper is flat and it rides up and over and containers fall down. But when you have that film, those plastic bags, they wrap around all these moving parts, and it makes the system kind of incapable of sorting to the best of its ability. So you have to shut the whole place down and cut this stuff out. So it's really bad just for downtime in the facility. It's not super safe for people to get in there and have it be climbing and cutting it out. So it can cause a lot of downtime and inefficiencies, but also if it makes it through the system, if we don't catch it in quality control and it gets into those bales, those mills that are taking our material might downgrade that material. So the price is going down for us. And can kind of hurt our relationship, which is, really important. And the third one, maybe it doesn't get stuck. Maybe it's not in the finished product, but it goes through, with the rest of what we call residue. So it's all the stuff that we get that isn't recyclable. We not only pay for it to come into the facility, through a tipping fee, we pay for it again when we landfill. And that's why wish cycling is really detrimental too. It's like you pay for it to process on its way in, and then you pay again for the landfill. So it's just kind of detrimental to like the health of the system.
And who is buying these materials? Because let me say this, you see a lot of anti-recycling stuff out there where they say basically all this stuff you think you're recycling is just being sold to China, who's just burning it. That's like one of the myths. And honestly, in some cases, that's true too. So, well, you tell me. I'm here to interview you. I just done a little bit of research on it. But is that true? Where does this stuff go after it leaves your facility?
Yeah. And I think, being in the Midwest, great in itself, but like another benefit for that is that we have a lot of, recycling mills. So places that are going to take the material, prep it for somebody who's going to turn it into a new product. We work with a lot of domestic mills, a lot that are even in the Midwest. But we have those relationships. So because we're not on the coast, we weren't exporting our material internationally. Like it was all staying domestic. So when, the international markets kind of cut us off and said, hey, this is too dirty, there's too much, unaccepted material here, we don't want it, everyone had to come back home and try to find space in those mills. So we were really lucky because we already had those relationships with mills that are in the United States. So for us, we kind of already had those relationships. Our material stayed right where it was. But a big thing in the city of Milwaukee is that if it's on that recycled list, we are making sure that we have markets and we have people who want that material and it's getting recycled. So that's why our list can be a little different, especially on the plastics. We take a number 1, a number 2, and a number 5. And that's it. We don't take any of the other plastics because sometimes you can't find a place to move it and people don't want it. So we say, we are going to tell you that we accept what we know that we can get recycled, because that really does matter to us too. Like it's important that people have confidence, right?
Okay, so a 1, a 2, and a 5. Now, like, why not? Like, who decided to come up with those numbers on, and why is it so convoluted? Like, why put another number on it if you can't even recycle it in most places? And who decided to put these numbers on the plastic too? Who is involved in that whole decision making? Because I feel like my hunch is that people put those numbers on to make you feel better about buying that product, knowing full well it's never going to be recycled. Is there any accuracy to that?
There is. And what's kind of difficult about that is like the chasing, triangle of arrows that you see that we think, okay, that means it's recyclable. On plastics, that's a symbol where they just put in the resin code. So those numbers are simply, and that little triangle is telling you what kind of resin that material is made out of. So it has really nothing to do with recycled content or if it is recyclable. And then you see the same arrows.
Wait. Okay, those arrows, the same sort of recycling arrows, that's not an accident though. Someone knew what they were doing, don't you think?
I don't know at what point we decided that we were going to use it for has recycled content or is recyclable or is strictly a resin code. But we use it for so many things. And that's confusing. So who started first and who used it and co-opted is tough to say.
Well, so now, and by the way, we are just talking about Milwaukee. So is this different for Waukesha? Is it different for Cincinnati? Or is what is happening in Milwaukee fairly standard for listeners who are outside of Milwaukee? Or is this pretty standard, or is it just Milwaukee?
So in the city of Milwaukee, the city serves all the 1 to 4 unit households. And it's the same for Waukesha County, who we jointly own our recycling facility with. We're also taking Wauwatosa, their materials right now. So we're all the same. But even in the city of Milwaukee, if you live like in an apartment complex with 5 or more, you have a business, you probably have a private hauler, like a waste management or a GFL. And their list might be a little bit different. And again, really, it's just on the plastics. But most of the materials are the same. But we always say like it's really important to check your local guide to know, because things can be a little bit different. A lot of the basics were the same. Actually, just came off of a kind of a state meeting that we have every year, and everyone's got like the same issues, but the same joys too. But there can be little differences. So it's important to know who's taking your stuff and what's their list.
Okay, well, let's say for the purposes of this conversation, can we just pick the most common things that people say, like that you can for sure in 99% facilities recycle? What would be those things?
Absolutely. So it's think about your containers. It's like your consumable items. So paper products, like not your tissue papers, not your toilet paper, just your office paper, your junk mail, throw it right in, even if it has that little plastic envelope, your newspapers, magazines, if you still get them, your cardboard boxes, but you got to break them down. They got to be flattened to help our trucks. They're really filling up, especially right now at holiday time. You need that flattened cardboard. But otherwise, it's, again, for us, your plastic 125 bottles and containers, your glass jars, your glass bottles, your aluminum cans, your tin cans, like your soup. Those are all recyclable. So it's really like, think about what is your food coming in. I really say like your consumables.
Okay.
Any of your containers, your plastic, your boxes.
So paper plates. What about your paper cups? Like paper plates if they don't have grease or anything on 'em. How about like coffee cups?
Yeah. So actually paper plates would be a no.
No. Okay. So now I'm
Yeah.
confused again. Why not? Because that feels like the same paper that feels like an
Right.
envelope, like one of
Right.
those harder envelopes. It feels very similar. So why not a
Right.
paper plate?
Yeah. And it's strictly like the way that it's produced. And we might change up our list next year to include some different things. So we can talk about that when that goes live. But for now, it's more about so like on those plates and those cups, you have like that waxy coating that's sort of meant that the food cannot seep through, and it's that waxy coating that stops things like your paper plates, your paper cups from being recyclable with just like an office paper.
But that same film is on, like you mentioned, the almond milk, or probably for more of these listeners, the milk cartons, but those also have that plastic film on them, do they not?
Right. Right. So some of the cartons do have also like a certain waxy coating on it. And the cartons are going into a different bale, and they get sorted together because they have that 3D shape. So that's kind of another trick. So all of the containers, because of that 3D shape, are able to sort to where they need to go. Whereas like a paper plate is flattened. So it's something that's not taken in that bale that the mills are looking for. And so because of that shape, like if it's flatter, if it's 3D, actually helps decide like how it's getting sorted through the facility with that equipment.
So now we are supposed to break down boxes. We're not supposed to break down almond milk cartons, right, or milk cartons.
Yeah. Any of your containers, you want to keep them in like a normal shape. And we try to, on our recycling guide that you can find online, typically we like to give a couple little examples, like your containers, empty, clean, dry, cap on, box, break it down, just to kind of let people know what that shape should look like. But really the boxes, because it's all about the trucks kind of filling up. So we can move material back in a truck, but we can't compress them. And so those boxes really take up a lot of space.
Okay. So, I mean, this is a lot of information, and most people are doing this wrong. I'm just going to I've been doing it very wrong. I've been breaking down those milk cartons and everything. And I've been, I've been throwing the bottle caps in and everything. So I feel like if I'm doing it wrong, where I've like kind of tried to research this stuff, I feel like everyone's doing it wrong. And you have all these trucks, right? And those have a carbon footprint that are moving the stuff. And then you have the facilities, which take up a lot of energy. And so when you have all this energy being used to recycle stuff, and it's oftentimes being done wrong, is there any validity to the argument that it takes more energy to try and recycle and it's not worth it?
I would say no. I think it's
Okay.
absolutely worth it. So our contamination rate, while we are getting, materials that we can't recycle, it is the minority of that material. So if you think about, and again, let's see. So this year, I think we're on track to recycle. And again, just from like 1 to 4 unit households in the city. It's like 181,000 households. It's 52 million pounds of recycling.
Oh yeah, that's very significant.
It's huge. And if you look at our facility, it's great. So if you jump on the river, this is perfect. You can kind of go by and see the facility. It's right by Potawatomi, in between there and 94.
Yeah.
So if you're on the river, like if you're canoeing, you can see all that material, and it just gives you a sense of how much stuff we produce. So we always say, like, you should reduce first. Like if you don't have to use something, don't do it. That's the best. But recycling, we're keeping it out of the landfill. So we're stopping us from, taking more of our natural spaces to fill it with trash. You're stopping emissions. So all of that material that's not getting recycled, that's just being put into the ground, is creating greenhouse gases.
Can we go into that quickly? Yeah. Because I feel like people don't understand this either about the landfills. They're like, oh, well, it's just going to sit there. What's the big deal? It's we got space, but it's the greenhouse gas emissions from those landfills that most people don't understand that's a thing. Could you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes from a lot of different things. So, our food waste, if it goes there and, instead of composting like in our backyards, same thing with all of our materials. So when they sit, in a landfill, they don't get any air. And so as those are breaking down, those landfills are emitting greenhouse gases, which, most of us agree is contributing to climate change. So not only is it, are we taking away natural spaces, we're getting rid of trees, which are kind of helping us to process some of that and create oxygen. We're producing greenhouse gases from those materials that are sitting in the ground, and some of it really, really slowly decomposing. And really, there isn't a whole lot of decomposing that does happen. There's some really good pictures of like a 25-year-old carrot that sat in the ground, and we think like that'll decompose, but without that oxygen, it can't, and it just sits there forever and kind of releases those emissions. So that's why we get some detriment to just throwing stuff in the ground instead of giving it another life.
Okay, so the case for recycling is you absolutely should do it.
Absolutely.
But is there any discussion about maybe making it more standardized across the U.S. and making the consumer aware? Like if they buy something and it says recyclable, you're thinking, oh, it's recyclable, But if it's not recyclable, even though it has a little symbol, like people probably aren't going to remember 125. They may if we say it enough, but they might be like, your average person's just going to see that symbol and think it's recyclable and not think anything of it. Is there a way to, or a movement to like standardize, like this is actually recyclable, this isn't? Because that would influence the consumer choices when you're at the grocery store or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see some of that legislation going through the states specifically. Nothing necessarily right now in Wisconsin, but you're seeing more labeling bills coming out to kind of fight greenwashing. Because again, you'll see it. And I get the same thing, we get like flexible tubes of lotion and they're like, this is recyclable, like maybe in California, but not here, or maybe through a return program, but not in curbside. So that's misleading for people. So you are kind of starting to see that movement and trying to make sure that manufacturers are more responsible with the way that they label. But that's kind of where it is now. So sort of like individual efforts moving in that direction. But we work a lot in Wisconsin. I think you reached out to the Associated Recyclers of Wisconsin. So we all get together a lot to kind of make sure that, we're using similar guides where we can, and everyone's a little bit different in their different facilities, but where we have those common messages, we try to do a lot of education on things that everyone agrees on and that are the same, so that, when you're talking to your mom, talking to your cousin, your best friend, wherever they are in the state, that there are things that are similar, and that you don't have to check, depending on the neighborhood where you're at, what is different and what is the same.
What do you think, first of all, in Wisconsin, for instance, is there any pushback in Madison with certain political groups about increasing recycling or decreasing it? Are there any initiatives currently in talks that need help being pushed through that you think would help this process significantly?
Yeah, No legislation moving through right now, but you're seeing a lot of work in our state, different municipalities trying to increase the capacity of recycling. So Kenosha and Sheboygan, they just switched to a carded service. So I think they were just doing bags of recycling, and then those were being emptied. And that really helps. People have more capacity in places to put the recycling. They're going to recycle more because they've got space between pickups. So that's kind of a big effort. And then in the city of Milwaukee, this June, we actually implemented every other week recycling, really that we kind of a spring through fall. Winter can get a little tricky because the same truck that's picking up your recycling, the same, team member that's doing that might be plowing the next day. So it gets a little tricky in the winter, but we used to have 5 different recycling schedules, and most of the city was getting their recycling picked up every 3 weeks. And so we just had over $1 million in grant funding that we implemented in June to move to every other week. And that's, again, because we know that people want recycling, and we want to get there and pick it up more. So that's been just a huge increase for us. And we're kind of seeing, compared to kind of like pre-COVID years, that we're recycling about 9% more. So again, it just kind of shows, like, if people have the capacity, if there's more space for them, if we can clear it out and give them room, that there is more recycling out there. So everyone's kind of looking for that grant funding and just looking at how they can improve, their current operations too, to get out there and get more of that material and increase recycling.
Okay, cool. Oh, folks, excuse the interruption, but I want to shout out our sponsors for the podcast. I told you at the top of the show, and I'm telling you again, get yourself some Jolly Good soda. If you're in Wisconsin, you can get it at any of the grocery stores. If you're not, you can get it at jollygoodsoda.com. They also got merch up there and a bunch of other stuff would make great gifts for Christmas. Also, I want to shout out Duluth Trading Company. Hey, winter is coming up. Are you prepared for the elements? You know that you got to layer in winter in the Midwest, and Duluth's got all your layers. They've got the Alaskan hard gear for your outer shells. Okay, that's top of the line outdoor equipment right there. And then, of course, they've got all the fashionable Duluth Trading signature series, with their crouch gusset pants or whatnot, that allow you to like work and look fashionable at the same time. And a whole host of other stuff. Get them, find it over there at duluthtrading.com. And finally, if you're looking for gifts for Christmas, head on over to Cripescast.com. We got a merch section with a bunch of Midwest stuff. Ope shirts, keep her moving shirts, keep her moving koozies, watch out for deer koozies, keep her moving bottle openers. We got watch out for reindeer shirts, Ope Christmas tree. We got a bunch of great stuff. Cribbage boards. I could keep going, or you could just go to Cripescast.com, see for yourself. Okie dokes, back to the pod. I want to do like a quick little like game thing, and we'll see if it works. But I'm going to give you an item, and we've already mentioned some of these. But basically, I give you an item, and you say yeah, no, or no, yeah. Okay. So for whether it can be recycled or not, and okay. So. Beer bottles.
No, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you got it. Okay. We'll get a couple easy ones out there first. Milk cartons.
No, yeah.
The pop top.
Yeah, no.
Oh, bummer. Okay. The little tops to your water bottles.
Yeah, no.
But
unless you got to put it on the bottle.
If you screw it on the bottle,
then you're good.
Then you're good. Okay. Then it's no, yeah. Okay. All right. Real good. Pizza boxes.
No, yeah.
Okay, but just the top of the pizza box.
Just the top. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Unless that's greasy too, because you got one of them deep dish style stuff that's stuck to the top of the box. Okay, let's see here. Tin foil.
No, yeah.
No, yeah. Okay, now
big as your fist.
Big as your fist. So, but if it's a flat sheet, don't put it in as a flat sheet. You got to crumple it up so it's as big as. So if you have a little ball of tin foil, you're better off putting that aside until you get more tin foil to make a bigger ball.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay, real good. And the reason we want it bigger than your fist is so it doesn't fall through the cracks, quite literally.
Exactly. Yep.
Okie dokes. Envelopes with the little plastic things so you can see the address on the inside of the letter.
No, yeah. Good to go. Just like that. Don't rip it in half. If it doesn't have your credit card number in it, just like chuck it right into the bin, and it's going to help because it's a bigger size.
Okay, so shredded paper.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, for shredded paper. Okay, so any paper you're shredding, you might as well just use it to start fire.
We say you can put it in a plastic bag and give it like one staple and put it through. But if it's little, it just rains all over the facility.
Okay, well, wait. A plastic bag? You would put that in a plastic bag or a paper bag? Paper bag.
Paper bag.
Okay, so
plastic bags, no and never.
Okay, plastic bags.
Yeah, no.
Okay. All right.
Take those to the store.
Take those to the store. Okay. So, or just keep them underneath your sink, and yeah, that way you can use them for dog poop or if you got to winterize your boots to keep your little piggies warm,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Any other big ones that I forgot that are commonly common misconceptions?
Sure. Holiday lights. Yeah,
okay.
no.
Okay, I'll give it to you so we get the video portion. Your holiday lights.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Huh? Light bulbs.
Yeah, no.
Okay, dokes. Oh, wrapping paper.
Yeah, maybe. If it's glittery, if it's foil, shiny. Yeah, no.
Okay, what if it's
your run-of-the-mill normal matte paper? Recycle it.
Okay, dokes. But when in doubt, just wrap that sucker up with newspaper. Then it's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, and then it's for sure good to go.
Buy a newspaper. Why not?
And if you have little scraps of paper, it's best to put them all in a paper bag and give it one staple on the top and toss the whole bag in there.
Mm-hmm. Or keep an envelope and shove your little receipts in a bigger envelope and then chuck it in. Okay. Or your Post-it. Stick them in a bigger envelope, send it on.
Golf balls.
Yeah, no.
Do you get a lot of golf balls?
That all day. Yeah. We have a 2-story recycling facility, so sometimes people try to recycle golf balls and they'll just shoot at us while we're testing all day, which is wrong. Very funny, but wrong.
What about batteries?
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Well, can you do anything with batteries? Can you do anything? You can't put them in your standard recyclery, but all those AA's, the 9 volts, you can do anything with them or no?
Yeah, so all of your standard single-use battery, you can put them in the trash. Otherwise, most importantly for your rechargeable batteries, you need to take them back through a take-back program. And so there's, kind of like Batteries Plus. We'll have them. There's some retail locations to take them. Or if you have electronics, again, those 1 to 4 unit residences in the city, you can bring them to a drop-off center. Those rechargeable batteries cause a lot of fires in our trucks and in our recycling facility. So you remember the stories where all the phones were blowing up on airplanes?
Yeah.
That's what happens in our trucks and in our facility.
Oh, geez. Okay, and then that burns the whole truck, and then you're not recycling anything. Mm-hmm. Coffee cups.
Yeah, no.
Okay, like a plastic covering for something, like a cellophane wrap or something like that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Take that to the store.
Okay, gum wrappers.
Yeah, no.
No,
too little.
But if you put them in a bag, they still could go, or no? No.
No, they're kind of like a tin, they've got like the tin outsiding and the paper inside. It's another example. Like if there's 2 different materials and they're really stuck together, not a good recyclable candidate.
Got it. Anything else?
Pringles can.
Oh, Pringles can.
Yeah, no.
Oh, jeez. Better to just turn them into a buck call,
They do a what?
Better to just turn those into a buck call. You ever do that?
I know.
Make a buck call out of a Pringles can? Oh, it's a great science project. Yeah, it's really good.
Deer carcass is another question.
Deer carcass? Someone's tried to recycle a deer carcass?
Every year.
And
not so much in Milwaukee. Our friends up north, deer carcasses all the time.
Wow. That is actually, we're now changing directions. What are the weirdest things people have tried to recycle?
Not at our facility, but another one found out that a skinned bear paw looks a lot like a human hand.
Oh, So you thought you had a live one in there for a second, huh?
Hmm.
So
Shut it down. Make
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah.
almost had to call the homicide division.
Yeah. I think don't get a lot of deer carcasses, a lot of bear paws in Milwaukee. But I did one time find an entire potted plant in a plastic bag. So nothing right about that. But I
No.
pulled him out and I repotted him and named him Merv. He's doing pretty
Oh,
good.
good. Merv's doing good these days. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
tell Merv I says hi. Okay.
Oh, will do.
Yeah. Anything weirder than deer carcasses?
Boy, that's pretty good. Between the golf balls and the potted plants and the deer carcasses, that's up there. No more
Yeah.
bowling balls,
Oh,
please.
yeah.
That's
Bowling
rough.
balls. You can't do nothing with a bowling
Yeah,
ball.
no.
Yeah.
No.
No. You might as well plant little somethings in the fingernails, the finger holes, and see what happens, you know?
I like that. Put her in
Yeah.
the garden.
Yeah, there you go. And we should also talk about just food waste real quick. A lot of people, throw out their food. Obviously, the best thing to do is to take it out and compost it or throw it in your garden or whatever. That way it doesn't end up in the landfills. But what about garbage disposals?
Yeah. So in the city of Milwaukee, a lot of us probably do have garbage disposals, or it can be, a little labor and some cost to put it in if you don't. But using our sewer system, all of that food waste goes to the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, and they turn it into a fertilizer and
Well,
also produce energy from it.
oh, Milorganite, right?
Yeah, that's what you smell when you go over the home.
Yeah, smells great. You're driving over the Hone Bridge, and whoever you're with, if they're new to Milwaukee, they look at you like really? You're going to let that fly with the windows up? But then you're like, no, it's the facility. It's making the finest fertilizer in all the land. Now, is that the case everywhere you go with a garbage disposal? Does it always go into that sort of a facility and it's reused like that?
It might be different if you maybe if you're out in the country and you're not connected to a sewer system. So it might be a little bit different. Like you might have a container, but here, since we're all connected to that sewer system, that's where it'd be going for us.
Cool.
And most of Milwaukee County.
Got it. And if people want to get involved with this process, how could they do that? Are there volunteer opportunities? Are there jobs that you have available?
Oh man, if you can drive a truck, if you want to plow some snow, we've got jobs for you. Yeah, so you can find information about our programs at MilwaukeeRecycles.com. You can also take a look at the City of Milwaukee website. If you want to join our group, Department of Public Works, it's a big group, so there are a lot of opportunities to kind of join in on these programs. It's kind of a big family, especially during snow. It's cool to watch everyone jump off their normal jobs and whatever day, whatever time, to help kind of clear those streets for people. That's pretty cool. And then get back to their day job as well. So it's a cool place to be.
It's awesome. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you think was a missed opportunity here? Something that very common misconception that we didn't touch on?
Sure. I'd say a big one is that, your garbage should be bagged. That helps make sure it's not being littered when it's taken to the landfill, but your recycling, keep it loose. Don't bag that recycling, dump it right into the cart. That's when it shows up at the recycling facility. It's ready to get sorted right away. So keep that recycling loose in the cart.
So if in your kitchen you got the recycling deal and you've got a bag in there, bagging it up is a no-go. So just empty the bag right in there and then just let it save the bag for another day.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we do. Like line your garbage can, take that bag, empty it, and put that bag right back in. And if you can keep reusing that bag and it doesn't get super stinky, you're doing a really good job rinsing your containers too.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing. And I'll confess, I'm really bad at that part. How important is it to rinse the containers?
It's really important for a couple reasons. Number one, the rats love the food. So for me, less food waste, less beverage waste that you're sending in your carts is great for keeping those guys away. But if some of that stuff spills out, like if you've got food waste, if you've got, some pop left in, your can and it spills out on paper, it can disintegrate it. It doesn't, get sorted. But in addition to that, we, have equipment that sorts our plastics from one another. So we have a machine that looks for number 1, another one that looks for number 2, and one that looks for number 5. And it actually uses a laser. So it shines a beam of light at that material and it helps it tell what kind of resin it is. So if it's full of mayonnaise, we get that a lot, a lot of peanut butter, it can't read that material well and it won't fire on it. And so it'll leave as trash. So it's important for that, bottle to be clean so that laser goes, oh, I see, that's a number 1 plastic or a number 2 or a number 5, and then it'll sort it well.
For cans, a lot of people crush their cans. That's don't crush
do it. Yeah. And we used to do that when we were little too, right? Everyone's got the can crusher in the garage. Here's the deal. If you take your cans into a recycler on your own, get some money back because aluminum is really valuable, go ahead and crush all you want because it's already together, it's sorted, and you're taking it in. But when you're putting it in that cart with all the other materials, those cans are too small and we can lose them. So we're going to do some new installs next year to help us capture some of those cans that are too small. But I know it's really hard not to hockey puck that can, but if it's going in the recycling cart, you gotta leave it full size. It's really helpful.
Got it. Because if you crush it, is that can probably not going to be used?
It's probably going to fall through the system.
Oh, because it's that
we're
fist.
We're going to find it on the ground. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then when you go through the ground, does all that stuff just go into the landfill then? Or because that's a ton of stuff, or does anyone sort through the ground?
Yeah, typically it's all getting swept up. That's where we find like the bottle caps that weren't on the bottles, the shredded paper, the golf balls. All the weird small little stuff that comes in tends to fall on the ground. So we'll sweep that up.
Well, this has been very helpful. And is there anything else that we should mention?
Yeah, I think that's good. I tell everybody too, it's, I don't know, you kind of feel like sometimes our problems are really big and there's nothing that we can do. And I just tell everybody, vote with your ballot, vote with your money. If you don't like that something's not recyclable, don't buy it, or tell the manufacturer, right? Because I don't know, what we want and what we buy matters and changes, what manufacturers are going to create or what sort of rules or things that we're going to care about. So, no action is too small. It all adds up. So,
this has been fascinating. Thank you so much for answering all these questions. And, maybe we'll do a tour of the facility at some point and, give everyone that visual sense of what's going on. Because I think that could really help, instill it as opposed to just being like, oh, I can't remember it. But, if you see it, it's a little bit more intuitive. So,
yeah. It's awesome. Very cool. We'd love to have you. There's some cool stuff in there.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. Keep her moving and watch out for deer, okay? Especially in your waste facility.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. Sounds good. We'll talk soon.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye. And that is it for this week's episode of the Cripescast. Make sure you follow the work Samantha's doing over at Milwaukee Recycles. That's at Milwaukee Recycles and at Milwaukee DPW. If you're looking for a job, if you're looking to volunteer, head on over there. Check it out. If you're looking for more specifics on what to recycle, check them out. They got a lot of great info over there. It's a little different on Twitter. It's at MKE Recycles and at Milwaukee DPW. Also, if you want that recycling guide, just go to milwaukee.gov/recycle guide. And of course, you can also follow the Cripescast at Cripescast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Come on out to one of the shows. We'll see you there. We got tour dates linked up on cripescast.com. Until then, everyone, keep her moving. Tell your folks I says hi, and watch out for deer. Okay, real good. Bye-bye now.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
Sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.